Hello everyone and welcome to our podcast, and in this podcast we are going to explain about the history of philosophy. Okay. Now we should start from Fico. What are you going to explain about Fico?
Oh, I'm explaining first. Alright.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah, I'm going to be explaining about the ancient Greek philosophy. Uh, mainly the history, right? So, uh, philosophy in Greek can be traced back from like 6th century BC from a guy named Thales of Thales of Miletus. He was considered one of the first philosophers of that region, so it doesn't mean that he's the first philosopher overall. And man basically asked, "How the hell does the universe work?" and concluded that all nature comes from one source and one source only. And so he made the Malaysian school, not Malaysia, not the country. Screw you. Considered the first philosophical school in the West, like ever. And many other people in the pre-Socratic area, like Anaxagoras, would also develop these uh, philosophy, like his suggestions, but in a different uh, concepts and ideas. Uh, all of his records can also be continued by Socrates himself, memorialized by two of his students too, by Xenophon and Plato. I mean, and according to Plato, according to his apology, not like the "I'm sorry" type deal, he vividly remembered Plato saying, "An unexamined life is not worth living." This refers to one of his beliefs, to see if it's true, to see if they're actually true to themselves, or to think that they're true without a good reason. Uh, Plato made the theory of forms as a concept, claiming that there are abstract, unchanging, and true truth outside of time, space, and reality. I swear to God, this sounds like a Marvel comic type deed, but it's basically how the comic sounds like. But it makes sense, as I explained. Trust me. The concept of actually justifies that what makes things and how they are seen like now, like statements that are considered valid. What makes a person beautiful? Whoa, is it inside or outside type beautiful? What makes this action a work of justice, or something meaningful? Uh, in a way, it's actually meaningful in what Plato signifies, as opinions are based on rumors and experience, documents are merely flawed. And then Plato's students decided to reject this, saying it cannot be proven, instead suggesting that there are purpose of life, meaning that the purpose of life is just happiness. Now, Aristotle said that every human has a purpose of being happy, in a way that he sounded saying that, okay, the way he made it sound is actually kind of hippie, saying one must possess a good spirit which will encourage others to do the same. He defined the first cause as the prime mover, which sets everything in motion. And afterward, everything that will happen next will just be set in motion. As he said, Aristotle proceeded to tutor Alexander the Great, and the great he was, he would also spread his teacher's philosophy to the east. They also called it the known world at the time, but let's just give it a pass. Yeah, that's all I can say. Thank you, guys.
Okay, alright. Thank you, Fico. Now, after we know about Fico, now let's move on to Balkis. So, Balkis, what kind of material will you explain?
Okay, everyone, I'm going to explain the Dark Ages. So, this era is known as the Century. Philosophy at this time was dominated by religious thought, namely Christianity. The pinnacle of Christian philosophy is patristic and patristic scholasticism. Patristic scholasticism is divided into two, namely Greek patristic or Eastern patristic and Latin patriotic or Western patristic. Greek patristic figures include Clemens of Alexandria, Origen, Gregory of Nazian, and Basil. For patristic Latin figures include Hilarius, Ambrose, Hieronymus, and Augustine. The teaching of these church fathers are philosophical theological. This teaching wants to show that faith correspondent to the deepest thoughts of man. These teachings are heavily influenced by Plotinus. So in the scholastic period, the influence of Plinius was taken over by Aristotle. At this time, Aristotle's thoughts were again known in works of several Jewish and Islamic philosophers, namely through Avicenna, Ibn Sina, Averroes, and Maimonides. Aristotle's influence is so great that he is referred to as the philosopher, while Averroes, who discusses Aristotle's work a lot, is dubbed the commentator. The meeting of Aristotle's thoughts with the Christian faith produced important philosophers of some of the Dominican and Franciscan orders. That's all I can explain, guys.
Okay, thank you, Bakis. Now, after we heard about Bakis' explanation, now we should move on to my part. It is the age of enlightenment. So, the age of enlightenment is the age when humans really think. Now, in this age, there are two persons that I'm going to tell. The first one comes from that was involved in astronomy named and Copernicus. He was showing his invention that proved that our planets are rotating the sun, not other planets rotating the Earth. But in the end, his invention was not accepted properly by people of the church because they considered this theory was contradicted with the theory of geocentrism, which means a theory that many planets are rotating the Earth, simply like the moon. Because of that reason, Copernicus was sentenced in prison for his whole life by the church. And the second person named Galileo Galilei, he found a theory from his act by shooting a bullet in some way of parabolic motion. Not only that, he was also the inventor of telescope. So he have his own ideology that the sun was the center of our universe. Within this telescope, the stars was very beautiful and have its own way, so he already know what is the space look like. Because of this, he has a belief of Copernicus theory. He was sentenced to death by the church, by the people of the church. Okay, that's from my explanation. Now let's move on to Velio.
I will explain about early modern era. Early modern era usually refer to the years after 1500. These were marked by the fall of the Byzantine Empire, the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus, the start of the Zeitgeist, and the reform of the Church by Martin Luther. The modern era is marked by rapid developments in the fields of science, politics, and technology. From the late 19th and early 20th centuries, modern art, politics, science and technology, and culture dominated not only Western Europe and North America, but almost every area of the world, including various kinds of thoughts for and against the Western world. The brutal wars and other problems in this period, in large part, resulted from the rapid growth and the link between the loss of strength of traditional religious and ethical norms.
Okay, thank you, Velio. Now after we listen about what Sergio said, let's move on to Panji. How about you, Panji? What the materials that will you deliver?
Okay, I want to explain about modern postal period from 18 until 19 SA. In the 17th and 18th century, the development of philosophical thinking of knowledge reflected great course, races, empathy, and idealism by sustaining vast areas. According to the Comte, human thought can be divided into three stages, that is theological, metaphysical, and positive scientific. For the age of adults or modern, this knowledge is possible only by applying positive scientific methods, meaning that every thought is only scientifically correct where it can be tested and proved by definite and definite measurements such as the weight, the breadth, and content of an object. In the recent or contemporary period after the stream as mentioned above, various schools of philosophy such as structuralism and postmodernism. Structuralism with the characteristics like the C.L. Levi-Strauss and G. Lacan and M. Foucault. The postmodernism figure include the following: J. Habermas, J. Derrida, now by epistemologists or sociologists of knowledge. In their later development, the structure of science is more systematic and more complete, or equipped with theory, logic, and the method of science, as demonstrated by Walter L. Wallace in his book The Logic of Science in Sociology. From the scientific structure, it is nothing more than to say that scientific activity is nothing more than search and research. Okay, I think it's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Panji. Now, we should move on to the final part, which is going to be explained by Ikhlazul Amal.
Today I'm gonna explain postmodern age. So in the 17th and 18th centuries, the development of philosophy of knowledge showed the major currents: rationalism, empiricism, and idealism, by defending the broad areas. Compared with the philosophy of the 17th and 18th centuries, the philosophy of the 19th and 20th centuries has emerged many new schools of philosophy, including positivism, Marxism, existentialism, pragmatism, neoclassicism, and neo-Thomism. In this period also emerged the flow of pragmatism. Pragmatism comes from the word pragma, which means use. So pragmatism is a school of truth, is anything that proves itself to be true with practical useful consequence. His character William James was born in New York, introducing his ideas about pragmatism to the world. He is an expert in art, psychology, anatomy, physiology, and philosophy. Also, there are three different stages of human thinking. First is theological, is the systematic study of the nature of divine and more broadly of religious belief. And the second one is metaphysics, is the branch of philosophy that studies the fundamental nature of reality, the first principle of being, identity and change, space and time, causality, necessity, and possibility. And the last is positive science, is the application of formal analysis to empirical science. We do not wish to overstate the scope of such application and recognize the possibility that valuable scientific result might be obtained whose character defies formal analysis. I think that's from me. Back to Alif.
Okay, thank you, Ikhlazul Amal. So, guys, we are in the end of video. Thank you guys. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.